What's up, everyone? You're listening to the RAS Project. My name is Ivan Temelkov, and I'm your host. On this podcast, we discuss entrepreneurship, personal development, family, tech, and marketing. Why in the fuck should you listen to this podcast? This podcast is for those of you who are looking for life-changing advice and ways to thrive digitally with your business. As always, all content is 100% real, raw, and unfiltered. Ladies and gentlemen, I have managed to put on a t-shirt today. I'm still in my boxers. I don't know if you wanted to know that. I don't know, my third glass of Moscato right now. Kind of have a fetish right now on Moscato, believe it or not. And this actually may be the last glass of the bottle that I just opened like an hour ago. Don't judge me though. What I want to talk about on this episode today, this coronavirus thing has really taken on a whole new shape. And I've spent the last couple of episodes of the podcast talking about this, and I think it's time to talk about something very serious, and that is why things are never going to be the same, okay? And follow along with me here. Coronavirus will change everything, believe it or not. It's a completely eye-opening experience for everyone. Now, as of April 5th, 2020, which is today, according to the CDC data, there are 304,826 cases of COVID-19 in the United States alone, with 7,616 deaths. Affected areas include all 50 states and District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Guam, Northern Marianas, and U.S. Virgin Islands. So those statistics were a direct extraction from the CDC website. Now, before you jump into any conclusions, and if you do, I'm going to be taking quite a bit more frequent sips of my glass of Moscato wine here. Now, for those of you that are watching the video, and for those of you that are listening, but the purpose behind this episode and why I wanted to do this episode is because it's not intended to create fear and panic. That is not what I'm looking to do here. In fact, what I'm looking to do is inform and educate on the current state of COVID-19 and how does it relate to family, business, life, marketing, entrepreneurship. Because all of those things are affected by COVID-19. And in the reality of things, they'll never be the same, ever. What we're seeing right now will drastically change humanity and everything forever, whether you like to acknowledge it or not. We were never prepared for this. And if we were prepared for this, there was a poor response on this. Honestly, from everything that I have been seeing just over the last couple of weeks, and mind you, tonight at 12:01 a.m., the statewide stay-home order is about to hit in the state of Missouri, which is where I reside. And for those of you that may have been following COVID-19 and the developments of it, the Midwest is kind of about 3 weeks behind on what has been happening on the East Coast primarily and what is coming our way. So we are not even in the eye of the storm, to be quite honest with you. And I don't think we were prepared for this. I don't know if we could have prepared for such a pandemic. And I have heard a lot of people also talk about, well, we should turn to China and seek some answers. What is that going to do? Sure, it might help us get educated more on COVID-19, but in the reality of things, turning to China for blame, I don't think it's going to resolve anything. And that is what I think a lot of people are wanting to do right now. They're wanting to blame China for this global pandemic because that is where it started. And quite honestly, it's not going to resolve anything. Absolutely nothing. If anything, it's going to put forth more time, more energy, more resources into something that's not going to resolve anything. And so I don't think we were prepared for this. I don't know if we could have been prepared for this. So to be honest with you, first of all, I want to thank all the women, all the men that are on the front lines out there and have been during the course of the last month or 2 to 4 weeks, roughly, that have been treating all of these people that have been admitted into hospital. I literally have no words to express my gratitude to you, because it's not just about doing your job. It's about the emotional impact that this COVID-19 pandemic is creating, and how that emotional impact will remain with you for time and time to come. Now, that is one thing that I want to be very adamant about, because I literally am speechless, thankful, grateful for those of you that are out there on the front lines, for the nurses, for the doctors that are taking care of these patients, making sure that they can recover. And those of you that have recovered, thank you. That's all that I can say. And again, we weren't prepared for this. I don't think we were. Now, there's a couple of things that we are going to see, I think, with this COVID-19 outbreak. I think, there's going to be a lot of upset people, as we've already seen, but there's also going to be a lot of humble people. I think with this global pandemic and now spreading like wildfire throughout the United States, I think it's going to question freedom for many people. And as a result, a lot more people are going to emerge humble from this, because it's going to question the things that they have probably taken for granted. But there's going to be people who will not emerge from this. Many people will lose loved ones, friends, family, all of the above. And that's very unfortunate. And truth be told, I don't know if there's a way to mitigate that. I know that the doctors, the nurses, the scientists are doing their best. At least that's what everyone is saying. And truth be told, I don't know who to believe at this point. They're saying that a vaccine is coming, but it's still months away. And others are saying, vaccine already exists, but they're unwilling to administer it, because there's an entire political campaign circumvented around this. But the point I'm trying to make is there's going to be a lot of humble people that are going to emerge from this. And I'm one of those people, because with the stay-home quarantine and now being enforced this evening in the state of Missouri, I think it's really going to help me truly appreciate even more the things that I have in my life. And I'm very thankful. I'm a father of 2. I have a beautiful son who's actually going to be 4 years old on Tuesday, April 7th. I have a 23-month-old daughter, and they're 2 of my biggest blessings. And I think with the stay-home quarantine now and the limitations of social interaction, it's helping me really realize how fortunate that I am, because, there's people across the world who can't have kids. We were one of those. And I'm not going to talk about that, but there's also people who are struggling to even find shelter. People are struggling for survival. People are struggling to stay alive. And I think during the course of this COVID-19 pandemic, if anything, for me personally and my family, I'm hoping to emerge a lot more humble than I've ever been. And I think we're going to see a lot of that, to be quite honest with you. I know that there's new horizons ahead. Honestly, with this pandemic, after it passes, there's new horizons ahead, where there's challenges, where there's problems, opportunities await. And on the business side of things, I think a lot of businesses right now are having to rediscover themselves. They're having to pivot. They're having to get a lot more creative, because they're forced to. They have no other options. They have no other alternatives. So it's a do or die situation. And truth be told, you've got to do what you got to do. But I think after this pandemic, there's going to be this growth spurt. There's going to be a huge demand, a spike. And I think that there's going to be a lot more opportunities, more than ever. Now, some people will harness those and others won't. Personally, I think that when opportunities present themselves, you should do everything possible to harness those opportunities. And again, like I said, every problem creates an opportunity. In fact, with the coronavirus, with the COVID-19 pandemic right now, there's a lot of underdogs, a lot of companies, a lot of small businesses that never really got any recognition that are stepping up and or now gaining recognition because in some form or fashion, they're contributing or participating. whether it's helping people or providing services or a product to meet a growing demand. I think I was reading in an article that over the last, I think 3 weeks, I believe, from like the end of March to the first week of April now, that there's been over $1 billion in toilet paper alone that has been purchased. That's a 123% growth in year over year in consumer demand. And of course, it's driven by the COVID-19 pandemic. So, a lot of retailers, a lot of manufacturers are stepping up to the plate and trying to do the best that they can, but there's also a lot of underdogs who are contributing to that. So this is, I think, a prime opportunity for a lot of small businesses and underdogs to be able to also plug in and utilize this challenge as an opportunity. Now, let me tell you this, COVID-19 will not break us as humans. If anything, it will redefine us. It will question our capabilities. It will question our longevity. We are not going to be exterminated like termites. And I know probably what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, Ivan, I don't know where you're getting your data from, but it's probably a bunch of bullshit. And honestly, I've gotten the data from trusted sources, which has been the CDC. Now, a lot of people will say there's no credibility in the CDC. It's just inflated. There's politics behind it. The government is stimulating it to create panic and havoc, and ultimately to entice people to control people. There's a lot of people out there like that. But I will tell you this. Sure, I'm scared. I'm very scared. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I don't know about the inevitable. And this is what this is. But I'm also not going to choose to live in fear and in panic. I'm not going to choose to be reactive, but remain proactive and keep doing the things that I have done thus far. I'm going to be honest with you. I posted this on Facebook even, that, you know what, over the last probably couple of weeks, and this is prior to the stay-home quarantine, which goes into effect in the state of Missouri tonight, I've probably been the most productive that I have been. I've been a lot more coordinated. I've had a lot more clarity and focus, and I've realized that there's so many things in my life that I can improve upon. While there's a lot of people there that just are seeing this as a limitation because they're unable to go outside. They're unable to socialize. They're unable to have birthdays. I get it. There's limitations there. But that is why you need to get more creative. You need to think outside of the box in times of despair. That is what real leaders and true winners do. But a lot of people are unwilling to do that because they've been so stuck on the same old routines and unwilling to pivot, unwilling to try something different. Now, that's not my fault. That's your fault. So you have to understand that you have to pivot. You have to continuously think creatively, especially in these difficult times. And again, this pandemic will not break us, but will forever change us. Before we wrap things up here, again, I just want to reiterate the purpose behind this episode. It wasn't meant to get political. It wasn't meant to get statistical. It's meant to be informative. It's meant to be educational. It's meant to keep others out there, other entrepreneurs, other fathers, other husbands, other spouses out there informed on what's happening and give them perspective, give you perspective. That is literally why I chose to do this episode, because there is a form of reality that we live in, and this is the reality that's happening. But I do know this, that we are going to emerge victoriously out of this, and you have to believe that, because it's literally no different than your typical day-to-day. And what I mean by day-to-day is how you get up every morning, what you do, how you go about your day, because all of our days are numbered. Some of us have fewer days than others. And you know what? One day you will not wake up. So in the essence of things, COVID-19 is just a rude awakening, but it's no different really than the things that you've probably been coping of on day-to-day basis as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a husband, as a spouse. Look, guys and gals, I have one favor to ask from you. If you feel that I've given you some value in this podcast, some perspective, helped you make a change in your personal life or business, I would greatly appreciate it if you shared this podcast with someone else. I'm not selling you anything or forcing you to buy shit you don't want. I'm simply asking you to share this podcast with other entrepreneurs or anyone who wants to make a change in their life and business. If you enjoy the podcast and you keep coming back It would also mean the world to me if you shared a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or anywhere else that you are currently listening to this episode of the RAS Project. It will help other like-minded folks know about the nature of content and value that I share on this podcast and give them a reason to listen. This is why I do this podcast to begin with, and have been for the last coming up on 6 years now. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, please email me at ivan@razorsharpdigital.com, or you can also message me on Messenger, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. And with that being said, I have only one thing to say. Never stop trying. God bless you all. Thank you so much for listening. Wherever you are, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye.